Hey, welcome to the show. I'm Yanni Rude.
And I'm just Terrell. You ever been out somewhere and overheard two people having crazy conversations?
Well, we are those people. We've been having these conversations since college.
Yep, it's the Regular Guys Random Thoughts podcast. Love is Blind, Season 5, Episode 1 recap. Be sure to like, subscribe, rate, and leave a review.
Oh, goblets up at the beginning again, huh? That's what we do.
Goblets up.
That's what we do. Hey, excited about this new season, man. I always like this when we get to see what's going to happen here. Anybody stand out to you in the very beginning? Because Jared, in the very beginning of this episode, I'm a skinny guy and it's been a disadvantage. Shut up. I was 145 pounds soaking wet for the longest time. It never affected me. I'll tell you that much.
Well, what's funny about him was I'm like, dude, because Vanessa asked him, so they've told you that? Well, no, but I can just tell. Okay, that's in your head. Mm-hmm. That's all on you. It has nothing to do with that. You could be skinny and still pull if you have game. And exactly. I just don't think he does. I'm trying to think. The people that stood out right away to me was Uche from the beginning. He just comes across like an ass. I'm like, this guy's going to be interesting. When it first starts, it just kind of throws, you really don't know who's going to really be involved in stuff.
Right.
So Uche stood out. I thought Estefania, gorgeous. Mm-hmm. I thought she was gorgeous. Izzy, to me, I'm like, okay, this dude seems cool. Mm-hmm. I just liked him. It just seemed like he was a cool dude. When I look at the ladies, I was thinking myself, Stacy, I'm like, I bet she's a bitch. I just have that gut. There's just something about her is a little bit off. And then Lydia, as soon as I'm Puerto Rican, I'm like, okay, stop blaming you and your craziness on being Puerto Rican.
Well, that's the way she introduced herself all the time. And let's get to her. I mean, because, we'll just skip past Ernesto burping on the date and like, well, it could have been worse. I kind of farted. And then Carter, who, as we find out later, just kind of, do you fish? No. And got up and walked out the room. But Lydia, the geologist from Puerto Rico, says some people think she's too much, but she thinks she's just the right amount. And I think one of the very first dates we get to see her on is with Milton. And these two, I thought, were a perfect nerdy match, which told me this wasn't going to work out because how many times did she say, "You're such a nerd"?
Yeah, but you are too.
Yes, because there's nothing he said that she didn't know.
Yeah. You're a geologist. Not to say like, I've never met any cool, swaggy geologists before. It's like, you got into that kind of stuff. So, it's great, but the fact that you meet a stranger and y'all connect, and I think even the fact that she was calling him a nerd, I don't think was a deal breaker. I think she was intrigued until she found out he was 24.
Because she's like, yo, you're younger than my brother.
Yeah.
And that was a deal breaker for her because he said, I'm putting you as my number one. And she was like, yeah. Well, the next one she was on a date with that we saw was Izzy, who was closer to her age because she's 30, he's 29, right. He's an insurance agent, he's Mexicano, and apparently these two are about to break this whole beef that Mexicans and Puerto Ricans have had forever. At least that's what it looks like because Izzy starts off getting points like, well, I think all men need therapy.
Yeah.
Way to break the ice, Izzy. Good move.
Izzy seems like a really cool dude. Like he has his shit together. Mm-hmm. Lydia was feeling him. I think the fact that he was age appropriate for her, that's what sold her right away.
And he had a good personality too, though.
He has a good personality. I mean, totally different.
Hell, you felt he was cool.
Yeah, he has a good personality. So I thought they had a nice, interesting date, but I wasn't for sure how Izzy was feeling her or not.
Well, it seemed good in the very beginning. It seemed very good, right? And we'll find out as we find out later, things kind of shift a little bit. But early on, we get to see him on a lot of dates with a lot of different people, like Stacy. Stacy's also feeling Izzy.
Mm-hmm.
Did you see them on their date?
I did. Now, I don't know about you. I've never had luck with Stacy's in my life. So if I meet someone and their name is Stacy, I'm just like, already not interested. It's like how I feel about cats. As soon as you say you have a cat, I'm not interested. If I meet a girl, her name is Stacy, I'm like, No, because most of the Stacys I know, I had one Stacy I had a big crush on until I found out more about her. And I was just like, ooh, girl, you are a hot mess.
Now that you bring that up, freshman year at UTSA, yes, never mind. Good point. Well, on their second date, Izzy said she's loud, she's fun, he loves it. He loves Stacy. He's like, yo, I'm feeling this vibe with Stacy.
Yeah, I bet you got to wonder what the vibe is, because just because you're loud and fun doesn't mean that's who you mate with. It just means that's who you have fun with, right? That could be the kind of girl you just kick it with on a Friday, Saturday night, call it the blue. Hey, girl, what are you doing? Let's go putt-putt. Let's go drunk and then go putt-putt. That'd be a blast. I feel like that's the kind of fun she is. But then Izzy also has the connection with a lawyer named Johnie.
Right. Who is the exact opposite, right? Because, opposite to Stacy, and he kind of likes that too, which is, look, that's why when they say, oh, guys always have a type. Not really. You can like this end of the spectrum and this end of the spectrum. It could be both, right? And that's where he is, because Johnie, on the other side, though, also says she has a track record of crappy relationships. Last one being 6 months ago. Red flag or nah?
No.
Okay.
Not a red flag. It's just, she's had some bad relationships. But I think to your point, guys can like both ends of the spectrum. But here's the difference. Fun, wild, and crazy, we've had that. And that's fun, but it's not who you want to marry long term. And so I think that's my issue with Stacy. I'm like, yeah, you're fun for a weekend. Where Johnie, I think he's thinking, okay, it could be potential long term. She's had some bad relationships. I think she admitted she's been married before. And where Izzy also admitted he'd been engaged before. Didn't hear a lot about what happened in the engagement or why the marriage didn't work. So curious to see what's going to happen with that. But
interesting part of this was Johnie admitting that her mom was all about, hey, I'm ready for grandkids. And she's like, yeah, the way you keep picking these guys, maybe you're just not meant to be in relationships.
It's bad if your mom is like, maybe this is not for you.
Well, here's what we find out too, because on their second date, we found out Johnny's not big on talking about sex, right? And it's interesting because she also says she's had a few connections, but Izzy's her top. Again, here we get these people already kind of laying out there like, I'm putting it out there. You're my number one. And Izzy seems to be the guy for a lot of these women.
Yep. He is. At the end of the first night, where the ladies are all kind of comparing notes, everybody seemed to Izzy. Uche's an ass. Izzy. And I'm just like, go ahead on, Izzy. Good for you.
Yeah.
But that's what's always weird to me about this show is I wouldn't want to go back to the guys' rooms and be like, hey, so-and-so I have a connection with. I wouldn't say names. I might just say, hey, you had a really good conversation with the young lady.
That's weird to me too.
Great. Right. I wouldn't say people, because they're all talking to the same people.
Yes.
So it's just messy.
We get to the next day, and apparently a lot of these women can't even cook or even break eggs properly, because apparently they just drop them all over the floor. But after we get past this horror of a breakfast that's happening in the women's living quarters, we meet Taylor, this 25-year-old teacher who goes on a date with JP, the firefighter. And, she says she could cook, and JP's like, look, hey, you don't even have to cook. I'll cook for you.
They had a great first date. If I'm not mistaken, as afterwards, JP was like, yeah, that's the one. This is who I'm going to propose to, whatever. He was down. And what I like about JP, I love his sock game.
Yeah, I knew you would notice that.
Tight.
I knew you would notice that.
His sock game is tight. I'm like, go ahead on, JP. But with Taylor, I'm a little curious because, she got all emotional talking about how she struggled with loving herself. And now that she feels that she can love herself, she's ready for a relationship. I'm wondering more about what does all that mean? Because then I'm just wondering what's going on with you on your inside, right?
I guarantee you, and usually on these reality shows, especially these dating shows, it's got to do with weight at some point, and I think that's where it's going to come. If we get to see these people later, Taylor's going to bring up something about her insecurities about weight at some point in time, right? You made a great point here about him saying he was ready to propose. He told her that. But we knew it was real when he walked out that pod and immediately was like, no, I'm ready to propose now. And I'm like, God. And I'm not mad at him. When you know, you know. Trust me. When I knew, I knew. We meet Uche, your guy, the lawyer, 32-year-old lawyer. And I like the fact that he was telling the guys, like, look, I want to cut it down to 2 to 3 women because you can't focus on too many people. It's like being on these dating apps. I've never really done the dating apps. Terrell, is that true?
Yeah. It's true, but there's a difference. In the pods, all you can focus on are the people in the pods.
Right.
On dating apps, you can focus on everybody. And so your thing is you don't get so emotionally invested over a couple message exchanges like they do here in the pods.
Right.
Right. And so like they are so emotionally, where the dating apps is totally different. So yeah, I mean, it's hard to focus on one if you have a whole lot. Mm-hmm. But if you have a whole lot, that's awesome. That's a good thing. In my opinion, it's a good thing, but it's also annoying because it would be the equivalent of Izzy saying, all these girls on this show want to talk to me. This is so much drama and so much work. Oh, tough to have that problem compared to people that don't want to talk to you. And women will say that all the time. It's like, it's just too much work. I get all these messages. I'm like, oh, you got to tell me all these guys want to get to know you? Mm-hmm. That must be terrible. How do you do it? How are you so awesome?
How on earth do you survive?
Yeah, how are you so awesome all day with all these men that are trying to get to know you on an app, where on the guy's side it's totally different. But yeah, I can totally see his point. Uche just comes across as a condescending ass, though, in a lot of ways. And am I not mistaken by saying that the guys, when the people have their blankets, so I think the women have pink blankets and the guys have blue, and then is your name already on the blankets? Like the books, the notebooks they have, their names are on it. And I'm wondering, is their name on the blankets? Because I saw Uche with the blanket with his name on. I'm like, are you that conceited? But I was like, wait a minute. What if
they probably have it for
everybody has
they
a blanket?
Probably just caught his,
But it wouldn't surprise me if he had a blanket at his house with his name embroidered on it.
I don't know why you don't like this guy, but his first dates with that we see him on with Miriam, who's a scientist who born and raised in Nigeria, currently working in the Middle East, but back in Houston now. And he's asking the question she need to ask that. But so what are you going to do? She said, well, I also have a skincare business. And then he tried, so dermatology. No, not exactly. So what is it? What is your skincare? That's a bit ambiguous.
Yeah.
And she can't answer the question. And I noticed that wasn't the first question she couldn't really answer. She just was, she really skated by a lot of questions. But what is the skincare business you think she's doing?
I have no idea, because I couldn't tell if she was just kind of goofy or she just a poor communicator, but I have no idea what her skincare business. I started to think, I'm like, okay, is this like in the adult store? Is this products in the adult store? And then I'm thinking, okay, from that standpoint, what are you putting on your skin? I couldn't think of like what would a product be that you would put all over your skin. I get maybe a particular area you might put a product, but when she says skincare, I think she means overall. And I was just like, what is this product that they sell at the adult stores that you don't want to talk about on TV? Because look, I don't get it.
I don't get it either. If you know the answer, please comment below and let us know, because we need to know what is the skincare that obviously the guys have no idea what it is she's talking about, because
could be what if it's I wouldn't say CBD, but there are THC like creams.
VBD?
There are THC creams that you could maybe put on that's for skincare, but also get you high at the same time. Maybe it's that. But I don't know. It just seems sketch. And the fact that she couldn't really answer it, and the way she tried to answer, I was just like, you're just annoying to talk to. I'd have been out.
Yeah. The next person he goes on a date with, Aaliyah, who's an ICU nurse. I kind of liked her story. Born, grew up overseas, in a military family. And one of the things that she was talking about, though, like, hey, Uche, you kind of give me nerdy vibes. We keep hearing these nerdy things popping up over and over again in their initial date. But it's like, it seemed like they had a good connection. And we'll get more from them as they move along. But we find out as we get to this physical intimacy thing, Aaliyah's really got a high sex drive, and she makes that clear. And on one of her other dates, says that she's a self-proclaimed freak too.
Yeah. So when I heard all that, I'm just laughing to myself. I'm just like, I remember 28. Because it's so funny, like at 28, how that was a big deal, right?
Yeah.
You think about relationships and just the longevity of a relationship as you get older.
Yeah,
that can't be the thing that makes you stick together, because
no,
at some point it's gonna go down as you get older. You don't keep having sex the same way you do at 28 when you get into your 40s.
No, not at all.
But I just think it's so funny how the way she, and again, what does she consider a high sex drive?
Right.
Compared to everyone else, because I think that's all like beauty's in the eye of the beholder. Well, she can say, I have a high sex drive. If I'm not having sex once a week, then we're not going to work out.
You're like, wait a minute, what?
Yeah. I'm just like, once a week.
But look, what do you, because Renee has had a really strange one of hers. She's like, look, if a man sees something messed up and then starts fixing it, I'll get wet. And I'm like, does that?
But I believe in that. I had a best friend in high school who also took auto mechanics.
Mm-hmm.
And my tire had a flat tire on campus. Mm-hmm. He goes, oh, you got a jack and a spare? It's like, yeah. So he just wanted to knocking it out. And this one girl who was kind of one of like the hot girls at school was standing there, watched him. And all of a sudden now she had the crush on him. And they dated briefly, all because he just was able to change a tire as senior in high school. So I do think that some women can get excited about a man that can, do stuff with his hands, build a deck, all those different things. Ooh, he's working on cars. It's just so sexy. I think some women like that.
Yeah. I hope you learn how to change a tire after that.
I have AAA.
Yeah. What do you think?
Mess up these?
What do you think of Justice, who, I mean, again, when you talk about remembering being 28, I remember being 26. He's this 26-year-old, and he's talking just like a 26-year-old personal trainer that he is. He's like, I'm good at cunnilingus. Everyone has a God-given talent, and that's mine.
Because at 26, you think a girl's going to be like, ooh, I'm curious. No, they're going to be like, yeah, this dude's lying. This dude's lying. So yeah, that's just 26. It's youth, right? You just say dumb stuff.
Right in this whole vein of physical intimacy, right? Johnie and Chris had a great conversation as well too, because they started playing this game. They had these games set up in the rooms, and when they went in, it was asking questions. It was about, I think the first question was just kind of one that Johnie was like, yeah, let's move past that. Let's go. He said, all right, well, let's go deeper. Chris is like, let's go deeper. He pulls one out. How'd you lose your virginity, right? And
would you change, if you could go back?
That's what it was, yeah.
How you lost your virginity.
And she lost hers her senior year. And then Chris had a story to tell.
Yeah. And I was like, okay, where are you going with this story? Because at first I thought maybe he's going to say he's still a virgin.
That's what I thought.
Right? I thought maybe he's going to say, well, actually, I don't always tell people this because it winds up being a deal breaker, but I'm still a virgin. And come to find out, he's 27. So when he was 17, 18, him and his friends went to Mexico. Yeah. And they meet these two girls. They're all drinking tequila. And then one of the girls is like, she wants to hook up with him. And they're all in the same hotel room. So double beds. It reminded me of like when you and I lived together in that efficiency apartment at UTSA. I'm just like, okay, so what's the big deal? And he was like, no, stop, no, which totally get it.
And she's like, nah, give me that D.
She's like, no, I know you're saying no, but I want to know what that mouth do. But I'm just like, I find it to be an interesting story. And I'm not saying that it's okay for women to do this to men. Just like men definitely shouldn't do it to women. It's just hard to believe. And I'm not saying he's lying. I'm just saying it's just kind of a hard to believe kind of thing. It's like, dude, y'all were drunk drinking tequila and you made a bad decision and you slept with someone while your buddy and the other girl was in the other bed right next to you.
I believe him in the sense that he may not have been attracted to her. He never said what she looked like. But either way, he didn't want to do it, right? And so for him, and here's the difference. And if you've ever been woken up to a woman on top of you, you know that you can do things against your will at any given time. It's easier. Yeah. It's way easier.
That's the best part of waking up. I mean, it ain't Folgers.
It's not Folgers in your cup. But sometimes, if that's not what you want, and they still want it, and I mean, it's like, let's be honest. There are times when you have people who are unattractive, like, what, you scared? No, I'm just not attracted. I believe him. I'm sorry, I believe him.
I get it. All I'm saying is I've never, if I didn't want to, it's not happening. And I'll tell you, no, it's not happening. And I think about when I was 18, I didn't drink when I was 17, 18 years old. I didn't do that until I got to college. But, and I wasn't having sex in high school. So it wasn't until I got to college anyway. And so even then, I'm just like, no, if I didn't want to, no. But I'm just like, that's just the way he tells the story. I wonder how, because here's my thought. What does that make women think of him? You know?
But that's why he's never told the story. Remember, he said he always told people that he had sex when he was a junior or something like that. And he kind of told a different story about losing his virginity. He never said that was the first time. And he felt safe with Johnie, and that's why he revealed it then. And it's in that. And that's why he revealed it to the world. That this is when he
I've never told anybody this, but I'm gonna go ahead and tell everyone on Netflix that somebody took advantage of me when I was 17 years old drinking tequila in Mexico. Come on, man.
Hey, now women are gonna come up to him. Hey, want some tequila?
No, they're not. They'd be like, mm-mm. If I gotta force you, I don't want you.
Look, we get into Lydia and Izzy next, right? And Izzy, you see Lydia falling further and further in this whole thing with Izzy. And I think this is where we get our first glimpse of how this is going to go, because Lydia says she's a giver in a relationship. Izzy said, hey, I'm also a people pleaser. And the first thing I'm thinking as they're giving all this is, why are they laying on the floor? Other people are walking in their outside shoes. Why are y'all laying on the floor?
Christ. Jesus Christ. Just stop it. Stop it. You act like you were the most sanitary person in the world. Stop it.
I just said that just to irritate the crap out of you, but really, you kind of mentioned this a little earlier, and it seems to me at this point that Izzy's not feeling Lydia as much as she's feeling him, because she says Izzy's her number one. And he gives that classic, well, I'm the kind of person that takes a while to yada, 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 yada.
Yeah. So, they have that conversation. He needs to actually process, which I totally get it. You're going pod to pod, meeting some great people, having some great connections, but you got to process it. But he wasn't feeling her. And so
there you go.
He finally has the conversation. He winds up next day ending it with her. And she's just really hurt, right? And and she's wanting to know why. And I'm thinking to myself, I couldn't be on this show. Because if you ended with me, I'd be like, all right, cool. And I would just move on, because I'm a Scorpio. I can just shut that off.
Well, the thing about it is, like, the minute that day when it happens, she walks in the room, he's in there, and she walks in and she greets him all happy, ready to go. And
hi, mi amor. Hi, my love. It's like,
and he is just like, he throws his head back like, and he tried to do it so the camera wouldn't catch it, but he's just like, he's irritated. But to his credit, immediately he does get straight to the point and breaks up with her. She's asking him, like, okay, what is the reason? Why? There has to be a reason, right? And I guess that's the question. does there really have to be a reason that you're not into somebody?
Okay. In this experience, no. There's a difference of, in the real world, you go on a few dates and somebody's like, hey, I'm not interested. You might want to know, hey, well, why? What happened? Seemed like we were good. You haven't even met each other. You haven't been around each other. You haven't even smelled each other's breath. He doesn't have to have a reason. And he's talking to a bunch of other women at the same time. And you know that just like you're talking to a bunch of other men at the same time. So it's just like, hey, I have a stronger connection with this person. That's the reason.
Well, but he never said that, though. He
did. He said he had a stronger connection.
Not with any one person. He said with other people, right?
I have a stronger connection with other people. Yes.
Right. And then he ends up saying, but he said it in the beginning. When she asked him what he told her, because she asked him what's the reason. What he said after that wasn't about the connection. He said that before that. What he said after that was, oh, well, it's the chemistry. And that's when she starts breaking down, crying, and says that, like she's been vulnerable with him. And here she is now still being left clueless. The interesting thing about this, right, is that prior to going into the pod with him, she was sitting down with Stacy, who also has a great connection with Izzy. And she said how much she likes Izzy and that, she thinks he's her number one. Meanwhile, Stacy is like, yeah, I ain't saying shit.
Right.
And then, so here she is crying. She gets up, she walks out, she's gone, right? And she goes back in the women's living quarters, and Stacy sees this, knows what's happening, and it's just, again, she kind of keeps to herself, stays away from it. I think they try to make it seem like she was laughing, but she really wasn't. She was just kind of like, she knows what the whole situation is. And what I like that they showed is how Aaliyah gave her a hug, sat down with her, looked her in the eyes, and told her, look, if he can't see you for what you are and who you are, then he's not the one for you.
Right. Or, hey, he's just not feeling you like that. And it's okay.
Yep.
It's not that anything's wrong with him. He just doesn't like you. And it's okay to have people not like you. But the way she was acting like they've been together for years. I'm just like, Jesus.
But again, the way this is, and this is the one thing about these things, is you cut off communication with everybody else. You're stuck in this. This is what it is. And this is all they're doing. Then you understand why here's why I get where your skepticism is with this, but at the same time, she was into him big time, right? This is her number one.
I get that, but that's on her, because what Izzy was doing, Izzy is meeting all these people. And he's like, okay, I'm trying to get to know all of them. I'm not choosing right away. She met Milton first, and Milton was too much of a nerd and like rocks, and he was too young. Then she meets Izzy. He's a breath of fresh air, and she went all in. I think Lydia is a stage 5 clinger. And so as soon as she likes somebody, she's all in. And without even finding out if Izzy was even all in. She was just all, hey, me more and all that stuff. I mean, she was out there.
Hey, that's what you do. If you think that's it, you go give your all. And I will say this though, I think the one thing she did do is brush off Milton too quickly. Does she get back to him? We'll see as this thing goes on, because I mean, there's an opportunity that maybe this is the guy. Well, we also see Taylor and JP, aka Sugar Butt and Sugar. And JP tells the guys him and Taylor are on the same page, and Taylor seems to be feeling the same way. And that she used to base relationships on looks before. So you think these two have a chance here?
Taylor and JP?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, JP seems fully invested in the process and in getting to know Taylor. Taylor seems truly invested in the process, because she said that she's always gone after looks or whatever, which is interesting, because if you have your own doubts about your own physical appearance, who are you to like judge other people for their physical appearance? But yet people do it, right? And so this whole experience makes it easier to not do that and just focus on the person you're connecting with. And so I think that they're into it for the right reasons. And I wouldn't be surprised if they're our first couple that actually,
I thought so too, but I will be honest with you. I thought our first couple was going to be this next couple, Aaliyah and Uche, because they meet up and she says, hey, we ever get a place together? I want to make sure I have a woman cave because I want to be able to paint. I want to play my guitar, write poetry. He's like, oh my God, did you just say poetry? I used to do poetry too. And guess what? I used to play the guitar too. And then you're like, oh, all these things are melting together. They're melding together. They're meshing. And this is going to be great. And then they meet up again. And here's the thing about this. I like how this conversation started, right? Because Uche says
before you get to that conversation, I just got to add this in because yes, they were clicking. But here's where I thought it kind of went bad for them before what you're about to talk about. Is when she was like, oh, you have your own business. He said he's on a software company too. I've always thought it'd be great to have somebody that can help push me in that direction, especially if they have experience doing it. I've not come across any person that got into a relationship and that person pushed and motivated them to start their own business and be entrepreneurs. I've not met that person yet. But when she said that, I'm just like, girl, you full of crap. You ain't gonna have your own business.
You said that, but he didn't. He was like, oh, well, okay. You're so motivated. You said this.
Because he knew at that moment, he had what? What do I always talk about? He had the what? Financial power. And so he's just like, oh, great. You're not this modern woman that's going to try to tell me what to do. You're going to listen to my advice because I've done it already.
But he also liked her passion and her drive to her becoming an ICU nurse and why she got into that. So I think, because in that conversation, there was a lot being said, right?
Okay.
Well, look, the next time they're getting the date, right? And you think this is the moment where either he's going to propose or the next time they get together that he's going to propose because he's like, look, she's like, maybe a little doubt. He's like, anytime you feel doubt, bring it up to me. And then she says, I want to challenge the fact that we feel so sure. Mm-hmm. And she may regret that line because the next thing they talk about is deal breakers. They both say honesty, and then he asks the question, right? And she admits, yes, I've lied in a relationship before. Of course, I'm human. And then it gets to the part of, have you ever cheated?
So she winds up confessing to this, that she cheated because she wasn't sexually satisfied for 2.5 years in a relationship that she was in. Mm-hmm. With somebody.
And it was as recent as 2 years ago.
And they ended 2 years ago. And I'm listening to Uche, and at one point, I respected his questioning. He was like, well, why didn't you just break up with him? Mm-hmm. Okay. So did you ever tell him you did this? No. Which I'm just like, okay.
It got to an interview point, though, didn't it?
It did. But
okay.
But valid, because I'm like, okay, so you never told him, but this person's probably going to watch you on the show. Mm-hmm. And they're going to find out now. Right? So stop that. And then he was just like, no, so it was really about you. It wasn't about not hurting him. It was about you because she stayed with him for 3 months after she did it. So it was a one-time deal. And he was just kind of going at her, which I didn't agree with. I didn't agree with that at all. But my big takeaway from all that is, should you tell someone that you cheated in your past?
Okay. Should you? That's a great question. And there's so many questions that come out of this, right? So many. Because if you're asked the question, which she was asked directly, and we said, well, if you don't ask, I won't tell. She was asked the question. You got to respect the honesty. Yes, I did. Because what? You lie? Why lie? Now, here's the thing. Nobody knew but her and the dude she slept with. So did she really have to tell?
Right.
But don't you respect the honesty?
No, because if she was honest,
why?
Because she would have told the dude she cheated on before she does it on Netflix.
She wasn't
trying to be honest. She wasn't trying to be honest.
She was done with that dude.
I get it. So now
you're missing the point.
No, you're missing the point.
No, you're missing the point.
You're missing the point. You're out of order. So if you were single and you went on Netflix and everybody knows, Yanni's going to be on Love is Blind. That means the people who you used to date are going to be like, what? The guy that I really like, but he blew me off. He's going to be on Love is Blind. I got to watch. Now they're watching and they're hearing you tell these stories about how you cheated on them in the past. That is shitty. If you wanted to, if it was about that out there. If it was about the honesty, if it was about the honesty, she'd have been honest and said that to the guy that she cheated with before coming on to the show. And maybe she did. But you can't say you respect the honesty. She wasn't.
No, I'll tell you why I respect the honesty in this space, right? Because he asked the question, she answered it. She wasn't. Here's why she wasn't honest with that guy. She said she had multiple conversations with this man. Here's what we can do. Here's what we can try. And let's be honest. Let's not act like guys don't have these huge egos and don't believe. What do you mean you're not satisfied? There are a lot of people who are in that mindset. A lot of them. It may not be you. It may not be me. But there are a lot of people who have that. Well, maybe it's you. Maybe you're the problem. Maybe that's why you're not getting off, because it's you. And that's the problem. So I'm sorry. If she had these conversations with him before, there's a reason why she didn't tell him. So I'm sorry. I respect her honesty.
But what did Uche say?
Ask the question.
What did Uche say? Well, then
what? Why
didn't you just break up with him? Well, he's like, no. What you should have did was broke up with him before you did that. If it was that big deal to you, you could have easily said, hey, we are not sexually compatible. I wish you luck, and could have ended it. But she didn't want to do that, and it was more for her. So everything he was saying was quite real. And I think that she felt judged and attacked, which I totally get that. But my question is, why would you say it? You don't know this person, haven't even seen this person. Why do you have to say it? Like, should you tell somebody that you cheated in your past?
If you're trying to build on trust with somebody new, yes, you
Doesn't
do.
matter.
Here's the thing, though. You talked about Uche and his attitude early on. Here's the thing about Uche. In that moment, he goes through and tries to be holier than thou and then says, oh, well, I cheated too, but I was 18, so that makes it better. I wasn't 26. Yeah. Shut up. And he said, I'm going to get to that part. He said he only kissed him. I get that part. But he tried to justify because I was 18 first, and then I only kissed him first. Regardless, you still did it. So it doesn't matter. And here's the point I'm making. I get where you're going in that, but did he have that conversation with his girlfriend when he was 18 about, well, you're not kissing me the way I like it? Yeah. He didn't. So stop that shit. Stop it. It's full of shit. And 18. And then 2 years later, he's like, oh, that's not enough time. What do you mean it's not enough time? How much time do you need to prove you have changed?
Right. This is my point of why you don't say it. What difference does it make? What difference does it make?
You gotta be honest.
Well, no, because they're going to judge you no matter what. If you say, actually, I have cheated before. Now people, oh, you're cheating. No, I just cheated on that person because of whatever reason. Doesn't mean I am a habitual cheater. It just means that person wasn't happy and I did this, right? This wild time in Vegas, I did this. All I'm saying is, why would you even bring it up? In this scenario, y'all are just in the courting phase. Why even bring it up? Just say no.
Because she thought she had found her guy. And here's the thing about it. Uche as a lawyer is a horrible lawyer. And I'm going to tell you why.
You don't know what kind of lawyer he is. So let's stop.
It doesn't matter. He's a horrible lawyer.
Let me tell you. Listen Philadelphia. Why. He's not a Philadelphia lawyer.
You will agree. Because he asked her, how many times did he do it? She said once. Not one time did he say, why was it only once? Was it because he was as bad as your boyfriend?
See, you're thinking he's a trial lawyer, and he might not be a trial lawyer. So it doesn't matter.
Why was it only once?
And for her, once could have been all weekend while we were in Vegas. Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, but all that is a once. Okay. Instead of just whatever. Because if you have bad sex life, if you had a bad sex life and you finally hook up with someone else and the sex is good, you're not only doing it once. If you've never eaten a good meal and you've been digging through trash cans for 2.5 years, and then finally somebody makes you some steak and shrimp and lobster tail, mashed potatoes, homemade mac and cheese, you tell me you're only gonna have one plate?
No,
you're not gonna get another plate?
I'll tell you what. It doesn't mean I'm going back to McDonald's for 3 more months. It means it wasn't good. That's why she went back and stayed with her man for 3 more months.
I think she had sex with that guy more than one time. I just think that once is the weakest.
Aaliyah, I got your back.
No,
Charles a hater. I got your back.
I'm not a hater, Lee. I'm just saying you should have kept your mouth shut. It didn't make a difference. You could have never even said it. It wouldn't have mattered. You could have kept that secret, took it to the grave. It wouldn't have mattered. My God. I vote that 8 people that are listening, if you've ever cheated, great. Don't tell someone you cheated. Just move on. You're a different person than you were when you cheated. You're with a different person than you were when you cheated. Let it go and move forward. Don't be like, well, yes, I cheated in the past. Because now the person's going to judge you. Women judge men hardcore that have cheated before. And when you announce it, they'll look at you sideways.
Don't lie. Don't lie. If you're asked the question, now, I'm not saying volunteer the information, but if you're asked the question, you better be goddamn honest.
No. If you ask me the question, like, hey, why is that important? I don't really want to answer that.
Okay, so now you're...
I never said I cheated. All I said is I don't want to answer that because it's not important. Don't worry about my sex life before I met you. Just focus on our sex life together. Because I'm not going to ask someone, did you cheat? Tell me about the time you cheated. Oh, you were in college, huh? 20 years ago? Whore. I'm not going to do that. I don't care. You know what I mean? I don't care whatever happened to you before you met me. As long as I look at when you met me and moving forward. Anything
so what
you
about
did
a week before
she
met you? What about a week before she met you?
Anything you did before we started dating is fair game, and I can't judge you for it. Period.
I will say this. How crazy is it that Aaliyah consoled Lydia, and now Lydia has to do the same when she gets back in there? I like that Uche's having a conversation with JP, and JP... It's interesting to watch this. Episode 2 is going to be good as we pick up from this. You know, this is the first early story, first early drama. I'm along. I'm invested. Season 5, Love is Blind. Are you as excited as I am about this season?
I'm excited about our gold cups. That's what I'm excited about. That's it. I get excited. I'm like, ooh, I got my gold cup. And here's what's funny. This gold cup, it's bigger than you think. Because... I've had 2 glasses, which was the equivalent of a whole bottle of wine. These things can hold some ounces. So 2 of these is 1 bottle of wine. I was like, you got to be shitting me. I was like, really?
Hey, basically what he's saying is grab your gold cups. Let's get along for the ride.
Yeah.
Tomorrow we're dropping the next episode, episode 2, Love is Blind, Season 5 recap. Grab your gold cups, order them. You can get them online. You can get them on Netflix.com. Get them from the store and Amazon. There's a couple different places to get them. Get your gold cup and let's sip along, okay? And let's enjoy this next month of Love is Blind, Season 5.
Give yourself some time to get the gold cup because we normally do the reunion episode live. And so when we do the reunion episode live, I want to see other people come on camera with their gold cups. And we could just have a big gold cup party at the reunion. So you got plenty of time to order these. I got this in 24 hours.
And if you're not camera ready, it's okay to jump on anyway.
Be camera ready. Get your shit together.
Hey, I'm Johnie Rude.
And I'm Just Terrell.
Make sure you follow us at Johnie Rude, at Just Terrell, and at RGRT Pod.
Yeah, send us some of your random thoughts or some of the bullshit you find on the internet. We'll talk about it on the regular show.
It's the Regular Guys Random Thoughts Podcast. Gold Cup, cheers.
Cheers. Ting.